Okay, so are we missing anyone? To a cat? No, we're not. Okay, so do we have to adopt a resolution to go back and open meeting? No, we don't, Mel? Okay. Okay, so we're going to proceed with committees. On procède avec les comités. The first committee is planning, planification. I'll pass it on to the chair, Conseiller Denis.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. At this point, I'm not sure how we're going to deal with this. Is this, with the other information we have, do we need to go into this issue now, or is that going to be for a later date? Or, Madam Mayor?
Well, I do know that I won't be making any decision on the subject matter until obtaining the outcome of the appeal process, as we were notified that that was done. So I'm going to wait until the outcome of the appeal to be able to proceed in making any decision on the subject matter.
Leo? Councillor Leo? You're on mute.
Yeah, I was trying to get off mute. Yeah, no, I think there's a motion on the floor to deal with the property. And I say let's vote on it, for or against. I mean, I think there's a motion on the floor. If Melanie is right, I'm not sure.
I don't think there's a motion on the floor, no.
Well, either there's a motion to accept the offer or reject the offer. If I'm not mistaken. Jay or Melanie?
Well, Councillor, through you, Madam Chair, or through you, Mr. Chair, sorry. What we have is a request from an existing offer to purchase with Ed Segay and Sons Trucking and Paving. And we then now have another offer or counter offer wherein they've indicated that they wish to proceed with the purchase, notwithstanding the previous conditions and notwithstanding the existing appeal process that's ongoing. So what they're asking is whether council wants to sell the land, I guess, as is.
Okay, and so, I mean, yeah, we can vote on it, right?
Yes.
Well, I'm more or less seeking direction here.
Yeah.
Well, I say bring it to a vote and
Sorry, Councillor Leo, you want to chair the meeting?
no, what I mean,
Okay, thank you. Madame Senecal?
You ask him.
God.
You're on mute.
I said, I think we have the advice that we have two choices here and then seeking direction. And I think I would wait till we got the result of the appeal before making any decision, and not to complicate anything, and to to see what's going to happen. I don't think tonight I don't want to discuss that either, because we have to wait, in my view.
Okay, so okay, Chris?
So, yeah, I mean, I think we have to vote on this. This board is muddy enough. I think we need to vote on this second offer and then move forward. Thank you.
Okay, so I'll put it to the floor. Who wants to vote on this offer, the second offer? 1, 2, 3, 4. Well, that's defeated. That's it for me. I'll return it to the mayor.
Can I ask a question? So that means we got to wait till the appeal is the result of the appeal, and if we have to make that decision, we'll make that decision.
Well,
Are we wrong, Jay? I just want to make sure, and I still agree it is defeated. So
yes, to put a finer point on it, you must wait because the appeal is still active.
great, thank you.
Okay, so I send it back to the mayor.
Okay, well, thank you, Conseiller Denis. On procède avec Community Services Services Communautaires. And we were provided a memo by our Director of ECDev and Community Services pertaining to the use of the municipal parking lot. And I'll just pass it on to our director if he wants to give us an overview of this memo to facilitate the discussion.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Like the memo describes, parking is at a premium. We've had some complaints in the past about not having enough parking. I know that it's not business as usual right now with a lot of people working from home, but we are recommending that we cease the practice of allowing vendors to use our parking lots moving forward. And so we're seeking direction from council on this. There are two in particular that have been using our parking lots to sell goods over the last several years. One is the vegetable market just in front of the town hall, and the other one is they sold corn at the corner of Queen and King. And in addition to this, with the parking issues, council's also allowed one new local business to use our parking lot across the street from town hall to be able to deliver some of their goods. So that again will create some safety issues. So we're just seeking council's direction on this policy moving forward, and so that we can advise these vendors sooner than later.
Can I just ask question clarification to facilitate the process? I do know that the vegetable vendor that was across town hall has been there even before my existence on council. So it goes back even before my time. The history, is there any commitment, obligation, or what was the agreement in those days with the municipality and the actual vendor?
And that again was before my time as well, Madam Mayor. And to my knowledge, I've never seen an agreement in writing. It just states that local growers have the ability to sell their goods without a license in our community when they're selling locally grown goods. But to my knowledge, we don't have a standing agreement with any of them.
Okay, no problem. So I'm just going to open the floor to see who has any questions, any comments. And I see Conseiller Chris, Conseiller Lise, Conseiller Leo.
So this is this is a bit of a problem because I want to support these vendors in any way we can, but I do understand the fact that by doing so, we're basically opening a big can of worms, because you open it to some, you got to open it to all. So my position, I guess, is to go with staff's recommendation and case by case basis. Thank you.
Okay, but is that the recommendation that you're seeking? I'm asking that to our Director of Corporate Services to deal with them case by case.
No, we are recommending that we no longer allow vendors to use our parking lots to sell their goods.
So does that clarify the?
So I guess what Councillor Fisher is referring to is in the event that during the Christmas parade, for example, we've had, for example, in the last couple of years, a request from a vendor that was selling beaver tails for a special events, and those are brought to council for approval. And these vendors require the proper licensing as well.
That's right. So Conseiller Chris, does that clarify your comment?
Sorry, just to clarify what I meant, I just I agree with the recommendation, and the last line of the memo said special requests will continue to be brought to council on a case-by-case basis. I'm just agreeing with staff. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Conseiller Lise?
Well, I do agree with staff in a sense of the word that Monday to Friday, but I think it can Saturday be left if somebody wants to do it, because first of all, there's a lot of business that, there's a lot of business, they all open, I guess, pharmacy, I don't know, because it's been there forever. And I mean, and especially in the summertime, I mean, people are out of town. You go on a Saturday in town, and that's the only place you see car park is to buy vegetable or to buy beer or to buy on the other corner the dine.
So
So
in normal
maybe for
times,
just Saturday, because that would not interfere with in the summertime, like specific months and just specific weekend, let's say July and August, to give a chance to some of them where they gotta go. I mean,
well, on that point, weekends when it's normal times, the stat scan is a 7-day operation. Most businesses are open 7 days a week. LCBO is open 7 days a week. So traffic and parking requirements are not going to ease up on a weekend. A lot of the same vendor I know we're talking about here has several locations within the community. I believe last year he was in Verner. They were also on private property at the corner of 3rd and Nipissing. So I would recommend that we advise them early enough, and we suggest to them that they can find private lots to sell their goods out of.
I'll go with the majority. So.
Okay, now it's Conseiller Leo, after that Conseiller Rowley, Conseiller Denis, Conseiller Yvon.
Hey, thank you, Madam Mayor. Yes, I agree with staff, their recommendation, and then on a basis of coming to council and asking permission. Yeah, I'm okay.
Okay, Conseiller Rowley.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I totally agree with staff, safety issues, and so I totally support staff on this one. Thank you.
Conseiller Denis.
I also support staff because that area is very congested when they have their markets there. It is a safety issue, so I agree with staff.
Conseiller Yvon.
Merci, Madame Medes. I agree, but I would also like to look into the possibility, Mr. Poulin, with regards to the back portion of the complex on the north side, the fence of the field. We could all probably offer an area there where people come in and sell their corn or sell whatever goods they have, because there'd be ample parking and driving areas. It's a fairly quiet street. It would then give them an opportunity to find or have an area to sell their product. So I think that would be a good suggestion. I know that area is not very busy throughout the summer, and you keep them away from the front area of the complex, but in the back, away from the pool, away from the parking area, from the where the working people park, but in the north part of that parking lot would be a good place for them to utilize. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Okay, so we have a different recommendation in, alleviating the issue of the problem of the parking across Town Hall, and the issue of the parking at the corner of King and Queen, if I'm not mistaken. So there's a suggestion here by Conseiller Yvon that maybe there could be other municipal property, such as at the recreational complex, if council would agree to that. I think, personally, my personal opinion was to try to find a space that would have been more conducive downtown, mostly, for our seniors that are co-located downtown and within walking distance. But if we really wanted to be able to provide the opportunity to sell locally grown goods or fresh produce, where people want to have the feeling of going outside to buy these, would this be something that council would recommend to staff to seek this and come back with a report?
No.
Huh?
No. Nobody's interested in providing us.
Like, I just asked the question, would council agree with the recommendation of Conseiller Yvon that this information be, that staff look into it and bring us back a report to say if it would be conducive? Would there be an appetite to look into this? Conseiller Chris, Conseiller Lease, Conseiller Denis.
So, yeah, like as long as we're talking about a farmer's market and not, it doesn't expand out of that, then I'm amicable to finding another location if there's something that works, and perhaps staff could make that recommendation. So yes, it doesn't have to be a parking lot, right? So it makes sense. Thank you.
Right, okay, conseillère Lease,
Well,
conseiller,
I was about to, I do agree in town if we want to leave that no more in town. But I mean, if we can have a place behind the complex which will not interfere and there's parking space, I know that the pool will hopefully will be open in the gym, but Stefan, do you think it's possible to think about it and look at it and see if it's feasible?
Yeah,
Well-
anything possible. Anything,
That we need to vote tonight.
yeah,
yeah.
anything's
So-
possible. What we can do is when we reach out to these vendors to advise them that their spot is no longer available to them, we can see if they can't find room on their own. We can
Yeah.
certainly work with them to see if there's a feasible option at our recreational facility. That being said, we have to take into account the fact that we have school bus. Right now, we've got the vaccination center. We also have the COVID assessment center at that facility. So we don't want to bring too much traffic there right now. And then we anticipate that the assessment center and the vaccination is going to occur all right through summer.
Yeah, true.
And then we also have school bus transfers on regular days. So until school bus is out at the end of June, that could be problematic if they're set up early in the morning. And we also have on regular years, a lot of weddings occurring at that facility and events. So we would have to look with them to see what can be done. This is also, if we look at our hawklers and peddlers bylaw, this is to assist locally grown produce. So we also want to make sure that that the products that are being sold are locally grown, and that vendors are not driving to Toronto to get their produce and then coming in and competing with our local businesses as well. So, we'll follow our current bylaw. We'll certainly talk to these vendors to see if they need assistance in finding space. If they can on their own, we'll certainly have that discussion.
Conseiller Denis,
Okay, Madam Mayor, my question was answered, so we'll leave that to Stefan to figure that out.
okay, conseiller Léo, conseiller Yvon.
Yes, what about the behind the old Park Lang park? Would that be feasible? I don't know, just
We could look at various options once, if they need assistance finding space and we have municipal options for them, we'll have that discussion at that time.
thank you.
Conseiller Yvon,
And Menace, I just wanted to clarify things. And I realized what Steph was saying with the parking, the buses in the front, but I was suggesting in the back of the complex on the north side. There, on the north side, not in the front of the complex at all whatsoever, but in the back. Yeah.
So on the Clark Street entrance, Councillor?
Yeah, that's right. But at the far entrance,
Yeah.
not no
okay.
parking.
Okay, so there seemed to be majority that agrees that it goes back to staff, and that staff will discuss with the two individual vendors, identify that the actual location is no longer available, and that there's an opportunity, for other suitable location within the boundary as close as possible to town. And then we'll get back a report from our Director of Economic Development and Community Services. We're all in agreement with that? Okay. And Steph, are you okay with that? Is it clear? Okay.
Yep.
Okay, perfect. So we're done with that subject matter. We move on to Public Works, Travaux Publics, and I'll pass it on to the Chair, Conseiller Yvon.
Madam Menace, with the item here, it's a letter of information, I guess, more so than anything else. The Ennis Flint is a company that's advising us that due to weather and that has damaged their chemical processing with the paint, traffic paint that we utilize in our municipality, is saying that their supply is backlog, and that because of the damages of the plant that they were still have our order in hand, but have no idea as to when they could provide us with the paints required. And that paint is utilized to do lines, traffic lines on the roads and other, lines for the sidewalks to indicate where the side walking area is and whatnot. So there is going to be a delay according to the letter with respect to that. So it's just a letter of information to let you know. There's not much more we can do about it. We're just waiting. Okay, Madam Medes, you have a question?
Well, just a quick question. The line painting, did we already award the contract for this work to be done?
I'm not quite sure. These are
Okay,
these are the supplier that they supply the main paint
yeah, but
this
I'm
to the
okay.
contract.
Okay, but I'm
Yeah.
assuming that any potential contractor that normally does the line painting for streets and for intersections and so on, they're not going to be able to do the job if they can't get the material that's due to do the job. There's a 60 to 90-day window before some type of normalcy happens in their production. So that means it can also jeopardize even having any type of line painting for our roads, even this summer whatsoever. We don't know. We're dealing with the unknown.
That's right. We don't, but they don't say they will not supply us, but we don't know when, and we don't know if like it's true. I mean, anything can happen with COVID, anything can happen with weather, but the possibilities are there that we'll be able to paint the line, but maybe at a later date of this year.
Okay.
And if we can't, we'll have to wait for next year.
Subsequent to that, I know a lot of people sometimes when they see that we're due for line painting, we have a lot of individuals that are on the alert and they either submit an email to support@westnipissing or speak with an elected official. Can we convey this information to the public? Can we let them know that the municipality will have a delay with line painting and we don't know when line painting will be able to occur because of the supply, which is not available?
That's right. And I agree. And maybe there is, Jay
Sure.
would answer that.
We'll post something.
Thank you
Okay,
very-
thank you.
Lise, tu avais une question?
Oui, la question, c'est, Sean n'est pas ici, mais Jay, probablement, qui peut répondre. Jay, mettons que ça arrive qu'ils ne seront pas capables d'avoir la peinture avant septembre, octobre. Ça ne donne rien de le faire faire. On pourrait économiser une année parce que l'année prochaine, il va falloir qu'ils le refassent pareil. C'est quelque chose qui fait toutes les années, right?
Va falloir que je regarde avec le gérant de travaux publics avec ça. S'il y a un problème avec ça, possiblement qu'on ne le ferait pas ou on va trouver un autre fournisseur, possiblement, je ne sais pas. Mais tout ce que je sais, c'est que ce qu'on a devant nous, c'est qu'il y a un délai.
Okay.
Et s'il y a une situation qui, if we have a situation that makes line painting not make sense, which would be really unfortunate, we'll obviously communicate back to council.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Jay. Any other questions? Oh, merci, Madame Medes. C'est à vous.
Okay, thank you. We're going to move on to the next committee, Environmental Environnement. I'm going to pass it on to the chair, Conseiller Broley.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. There's one item on the agenda is waste diversion from our landfills. And I see you brought the subject forward, Madam Mayor, if you'd like to discuss.
Okay, well, I do know, Mr. Chair, that you're a proponent for free stores at the landfill. You were the individual that created the pilot project for River Valley landfill. And the update that we have received from you, Mr. Chair, is that it was well received, well used, and beneficial for the individuals using the landfill. And the benefit to the municipality, it's to be able to divert waste. So based on that, there was this article that circulated in the local media. There were many individuals from various communities that identified that this would be a great initiative that the municipality should continue moving forward. And everyone had or identified an appetite to have the same model that you have at the River Valley landfill. So I know that we're discussing budget. I don't have a clue what's the cost involved? But I was hoping that through you, Mr. Chair, that we can continue this work and expand on it. And hopefully that council can get a report with a plan on how we can roll it out to other landfills. I'm not asking this evening for it to be implemented immediately in all landfills, but I would prefer through you, through staff, to get their input and provide us with a plan so we can move forward and be proactive in diverting waste into our landfills.
Totally agree, Madam Mayor. It's a very good project, and I'd like to thank you for bringing that forward. Now, with that being said, Councillor Chris Fisher.
So when I go to the dump, I don't say I'm going to the dump. I tell my wife I'm going shopping. I just love the free store, and I go in and so I think it's an excellent initiative. I got a lot of my best stuff comes from the free store. I just love it. Now, I will say that it is definitely a bit more work because it has to be organized and people rifle through it. And you know, sometimes you can tell it's just being cleaned up. Sometimes it's a lot of stuff sort of strewn around. So I agree, and I think it should be expanded, but there is a little bit more of a cost to it because, you know, you got to get the bin and then you need somebody to be looking at the stuff and cleaning it up. And after stuff's been there for so long and it's never going to get taken, then it needs to go to the landfill. So there is some extra work involved. So, but I totally agree and support it. But I think we definitely need a cost associated with it. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Councillor Chris. And it's true what you're saying. There's a lot of volunteer time that goes associated with it, but this could be in our staff's report. Councillor Yvonne, next.
I would support it 100%, and I think we're wasting time talking here. I think we should do it last week because it's something that, you know, bring a 6-foot 2x4. Imagine you could sell that for $100, you know, and a 2 plywood you can sell it for $1,000. No, but realistically, people throw away boards that are, you know, maybe 3 or 4 feet. We could have an area where we could. Oh my God, there's so much we can do, and I agree. Rolly, you brought this up years ago, and I agree. Let's go for it because it's certainly, you know, I would be willing to donate money if I go there and pick something up. It's like Chris, it's like being in like another Christmas, you know. So no, let's do it as fast as we can. Thank you, Mister. You're doing a good job.
Thank you, Councillor Yvonne. It's true. People are really throwing very good stuff. Sometimes it's brand new. So thank you. Councillor Leo.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Yeah, I agree with it. The only we have to caution too is because we have the fees at there to pick up clothes. I mean, people donate clothes, and the Legion they have garage sales. They're not during the COVID, but that's they do their fundraising through garage sales, and people donate stuff. So yeah, like we have to balance both of them at the same time. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Leo. Councillor Lease.
Well, I want to say that I maybe if the cost of living is still going up in a few years, I might be doing my Christmas shopping there too. But I do agree with the concept. I think it's a good idea, and I think I mean obviously if there's a cost, it will have to be brought up, and I think it's a good idea. So I would support it definitely.
Thank you, Councillor Lease. Councillor Denis.
Well, I also support the idea. I think it's a very good idea. I'd like to see that in Laving for sure. And I don't know how much what the expenses are, what the cost is, but I think it's worth it to because, like you say, there's lots of good stuff being thrown away, and why throw it away if you can? So yeah, I support this 100% as long as the cost is not too high. So yes, I support it.
Thank you, Councillor Denis. To maybe to elaborate a little bit on this one is pretty well every municipality does practice it in some way, but there's no shelter. So whenever you have good product, they put it on top of the bank instead of throwing it in the bank. But then if it rains the next day, the product is no longer good. But with a shelter, it's perfect. It stays good, and people ruffle through it. And so it's a good idea. And I would love to see Lavigne definitely have that. And all of the municipality have that. Did you have anything, Councillor Dan? Okay. Well, with this, Madam Mayor, I'll ask our manager to bring a report on this and cost, and see if it is doable in every municipality, in every town that we have. With this, I'll pass that back to you. Thank you.
And is it, just out of curiosity, may I ask, Mr. Chair, is it feasible to say that we can expect something to come back within a month?
I will definitely ask my manager if he can give us a report. There's things in there that probably needs to be studied a little bit, because the effect of a bottleneck, you do not want to stop traffic from moving toward the dump, so it has to be off to a side. Maybe in the Sturgeon Falls dump, it would be harder to establish that. So I don't know. So they'll have to be definitely will have to be studied. But yes, I will definitely encourage our manager to get on this. But we have one manager, so hopefully he could get it done.
Okay, but would that be through the municipality or West Nipissing Environmental Services?
Municipality.
So it would be the municipality. So our CEO would also be involved with making sure that a plan is provided to us, right, Jay?
Yes, it sounds very simple on this end, but if you're looking at cash collection, there's operations, there's a few things that need to be put in place. If you're putting things aside in a sheltered thing for assistance and have people come and take something away, there's also some there's some liability issues that we're going to have a look at.
Okay, thank you. And thank you, Mr. Chair. We'll look forward to further discussions.
Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Okay, so now we move on to the regular portion of the meeting, la séance régulière, and we move on to planning. So would need volunteers for F1 for zoning bylaw for the 10537 Highway 17 Verner. Is there a mover and a seconder? Conseiller Yvon, Conseiller Lease.
It is moved by Councillor Duhayman, seconded by Councillor Lease and Acal. Be it resolved the bylaw number 2021-30 being a bylaw to amend zoning bylaw 2014-45 to rezone certain lands located at 10537 Highway 17 in Verner from rural zone to rural exception zone RU3 shall come into force and take effect on the day it is passed.
Are there any questions or comments? None. Any objections? None. Carried. Adopted. Is there a volunteer for the F2 resolution? Conseiller Leo, Conseiller Denis.
It is moved by Councillor Mallette and seconded by Councillor Denis Senecal. Be it resolved that bylaw number 2021-31 being a bylaw to amend zoning bylaw 2014-45 to rezone certain lands located at 161 Main Street in Sturgeon Falls from general commercial exception zone 1 to residential 4 exception zone 3 shall come into force and take effect on the day it is passed.
Okay, are there any comments or questions? Conseiller Yvon? You're on mute, Conseiller Yvon.
There was deep concern about the parking issue there, and I am concerned with it as well. And an area where the snow could be put into place. And from what I see, it's not resolved. And unfortunately, we're passing something that could give us a problem. But I'll leave it to the council to decide. Thank you.
Okay, well, just a quick overview that the subject matter was discussed at the planning advisory. It's to be able to look at an actual building, which is at the corner of Main and John. And it's a 2-story building. There's already apartments on the second level. It was to convert the first level to additional apartments. And it was identified as apartments geared to income where there's, I believe, to those in need. And we know that there's a shortage in the community. There was also based on the recommendation of our planner that basically it did not have all the conforming parking spaces per dwelling and concerns with snow removal during the winter months. But it was also the consultant identified to the advisory committee that it's not uncommon practice when it comes to apartment buildings in the core downtown. And it's not illegal for the owner to also advertise the rental units with no parking space. And we were also told that not each tenant have a vehicle. So the planning advisory voted in recommendation for the rezoning to be able to entertain the construction of additional apartment units in the core downtown. And if individuals don't have a vehicle, that there's still accessibility to local groceries and within walking distance. So in an overview, that summarizes, for those that are not part of the Planning Advisory Committee. And I'll just ask our planner if she had anything else to add pertaining to this issue.
No, Madam Mayor, you pretty much covered it, I think.
Okay. So I see raise of hands, Conseiller Lease, Conseiller Chris.
Okay, I do have the same concern, and I do agree we need, and especially for a gift income and single person maybe in downtown, they have access to grocery and so, but I think I sure hope that the landlord, when he rent, that it makes it very clear there's no parking. So, because then you don't want to create, especially in the winter time, that you have a person that parks his car during the day in parking space all the time. So that could create a problem. So I have not an issue. I just hope that it's really well advertised that there's no parking space.
Conseiller Chris.
So I agree with Yvonne. I had difficulty with this one at planning. On the one hand, you want people to be able to develop, and I know we need that type of housing. But on the other hand, we do have a traffic problem, and the recommendation was not to accept this one in planning because the ratio is so low. And you can advertise a building without a parking spot, but you can't rent to somebody who you can't say you can't have a car to own this, to rent this unit. So I do have difficulty with this one. Thank you.
Okay, but the consultant did say it's not illegal for the owner to advertise the rental unit and that there's no designated parking and that the individual would be required to find their own parking through other private premises with local surrounding businesses or individuals, and said that was a common practice. I'm just identifying what the consultant shared at the Planning Advisory Committee. Conseiller Denis, Conseiller Rowley. And
Thank you, Madam Mayor. The consultant did say that it's legal to advertise an apartment saying that you cannot rent if you have a car. That was asked at the planning board, was made clear to us that they can do that. And that's partially why we sent it forward, because I think we have a need in town for apartments and more sort of geared to income apartments. And I think it's just a need versus what's for or against. So I think if he advertises or heard that there's no car involved, if you can't have a car, well, that should resolve a problem.
Not car.
It's not far to. It's not fair to tell them the owner that we're not going to support it because there's not enough parking when it could be accommodated somehow. So, and we do need the apartments. All right, thank you.
Conseiller Rowley.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Yes, I also have a hard time with this one because we do need apartments, we do need lodging. But if you don't need a car, but you have friends that comes in, visit, it's kind of hard to accept, a proposal like that. I definitely got a hard time with this one. Thank you.
Councillor Lease?
Well, the reality is there is, for example, some property that people have 2 car and I mean more car than parking space, and they do find other place to park their car. I mean, in town, there's arrangement. My say was not that the landlord advertised no car. It's advertised that there's no parking available, and it's the responsibility of the tenant to find a place to park. And I mean, everywhere, like even our own driveway, sometimes we have visitor more than 2 cars, and so that happens. So if visitor go, they're gonna find a place to park, and they gotta walk to the apartment, and they gotta go. And if they stay, they will have to find accommodation. And if they leave their car on the street in the wintertime, for example, and it snowed, well, they'll be ticket or tow, and that will be their responsibility. So there would be some law to apply to it. So, and there's a lot of apartment downtown, like I said, that they don't have enough space for all the cars that they have in the building.
Yeah, we have a precedent at the corner of King Street and Queen, where there's apartments upstairs, the commercial business, and they don't have designated parking 24/7. So they're in the same predicament. The tenants need to find their own parking space after 11 o'clock at night. So we, everyone is duly informed of the issue. So I guess right now, we had a mover and a seconder for the resolution, and the resolution was read. Okay, so I'm going to call it to a vote. Who is in favor pertaining to the rezoning as per the resolution? Okay, sorry, Mel, I'm
Yes.
looking, it was to rezone, right?
That's correct.
Okay, so I just want to make sure, who's in favor of the request for the rezoning for this development? Moi, je suis en faveur. So 1, 2, 3, 4. Puis il y en a 4 qui disent no, so it is defeat. It's not even 4, I think it's 3. Was
No,
it 3? Okay, so it's 3 in favor, 4 in favor, 4 against, defeated. Okay, so for F4, a mover and a seconder. Conseiller Yvon, Conseiller Denis.
It was moved by Councillor Duhaime and seconded by Councillor Denise Senecal. Be it resolved, the bylaw number 2021-32 being a deeming bylaw to designate lots 7, 8, and 9 on registered plan 36M 598 not to be lots on a registered plan of subdivision shall come into force and take effect on the day it is passed.
Any questions or comments? Those in favor? Carried. Adopted. A mover and a seconder for F5. Conseiller Lise, Conseiller Denis.
It was moved by Councillor Lee Senecal and seconded by Councillor Denise Senecal. Whereas a public meeting was held on April the 12th, 2021 for a draft plan approval of a plan of subdivision and property located on Roy Street in Sturgeon Falls, and more particularly described as part of the north half of Lot 5, Concession A in the Township of Springer, owned by numbered company 1369965 Ontario Limited and Rayal and Christine Marlowe. And whereas written and public submissions were made and considered at the West Nipissing Planning Advisory Committee, and whereas the West Nipissing Planning Advisory Committee has recommended to Council for the West Nipissing Municipality that the draft plan be approved subject to conditions, be it therefore resolved that the draft plan of subdivision be granted for application number SUBD 2021-02 made by 1369965 Ontario Limited and Rayal and Christine Marlowe for a plan of subdivision located on Roy Street and more particularly described as part of the north half of Lot 5 Concession A in the Township of Springer, which draft plan shall be amended to include parts 13 and 14 on Plan 36R 8394, which was an amendment requested by the committee, and as well as the conditions contained on Schedule A.
Okay. Any comments or questions? Those in favor, en faveur? Adopté, carried. A mover and a seconder for F5. Conseiller Léo, Conseiller Yvon.
It's moved by Councillor Lanelette and seconded by Councillor Duhaime. Be it resolved that bylaw number 2021-33, being a bylaw to accept, assume, and dedicate lands for public highway purposes, shall come into force and take effect on the day it is passed. Part of the east half of Lot 11, Concession B, being Part 2, Plan 36R 14507 in the Township of Caldwell, being part of the travel road known as Chemin Rainville Road.
Right. And this is a standard bylaw that we adopt to clean up transactions when we deal with whatever issues on those specific roads. So all in favor, en faveur, adopté, carried. Pertaining to F6, mover and a seconder. Conseiller Chris, Conseiller Denis.
It is moved by Councillor Fisher and seconded by Councillor Denise Senecal. Be it resolved that bylaw number 2021-34, being a bylaw to authorize the execution of a subdivision agreement with West Nipissing Casa Developments Inc. and VNS Morrison Excavating Inc. for file number SUBD 2017-03 shall come into force and take effect on the day it is passed.
Any questions or comments? Those in favor, en faveur? Carried, adopted. Okay, so we move on to correspondence and accounts for G1, March 31st, council budget minutes. A mover and a seconder. Conseiller Léo, Conseiller Chris.
Moved by Councillor Millet and seconded by Councillor Fisher. Be it resolved that the minutes of the budget meeting of council held on March the 31st, 2021 be adopted as presented.
All in favor, en faveur? Adopté, carried. A mover and a seconder for the April 6th council meeting. Conseiller Yvon, Conseiller Dan.
It is moved by Councillor Duhaime and seconded by Councillor Revita. Be it resolved that the minutes of the meeting of council held on April the 6th, 2021 be adopted as presented.
All in favor, en faveur? Carried, adopté. G3, April 14, council budget minutes, mover and a seconder. Conseiller Denis, Conseiller Yvon.
It is moved by Councillor Denise Senecal and seconded by Councillor Duhaime. Be it resolved that the minutes of the budget meeting of council held on April the 14th, 2021 be adopted as presented.
Are there any questions or comments? I had some questions, not pertaining to the content of the minutes, but just as far as the action item reflecting from the minutes. I was hoping to be able to find out by law enforcement if we had an idea of when those vacancies would be advertised, because I know there's quite a public outcry for enforcement. I'm not too sure if our Director of Corporate Services or CEO is still on.
I'm still on, so is the Director
Okay.
of Corporate Services. So you made, we wanted to make some changes, and I suppose we were waiting to approve the budget to make sure. So that discussion and the form and fashion of how bylaw enforcement, will take place just happened. I suppose, Elisa, speaking administratively here, I think that given it's the fact that it's status quo, we can probably post. But we wanted to make sure that there wasn't another structure that council was proposing because it affected the budget. With respect to bylaw enforcement, rest assured, we are monitoring the complaints. We are dealing with complaints. Nothing is falling through the cracks as of yet, but of course there is a massive gap. But we want to replace that. But we are limping along, and the public can feel free to continue to call us at 2250, and so it's logged in properly at in our CGIS system. Thank you.
Okay, perfect. Thank you. Are there any other questions? No? Okay, so if our
I do, excuse me, we're still on the minutes.
Oui,
Sorry, I
Conseil.
was not sleeping. I was trying to process. I do have a question on the same page that you were. It's regarding the Sturgeon Fall Beach. I think it said that it was managed through operation, and I think a request was done to ask I think Stéphane a report to say how much it was spent last year, because we did refuse a request the $30,000, and there were a lot of work that was done, and so just I think we would like to see that report. So I did not expect it tonight, but just to make Stéphane is shaking his head. Okay, thank you, Stéphane.
Yeah.
Okay.
And I will touch on there is something at later on, because it have to do on something over there, but not right now.
Okay, but we're dealing with these
Yeah.
minutes now for April, for April 14th.
Yes. Okay.
Coming back to the resolution, all in favor, en faveur? Adopté, carried. A mover and a seconder for G4. Conseiller Yvon, Conseiller Léo.
Il est proposé par le Conseil du Règne, appuyé par le Conseil Malade. Be it resolved that the minutes of the following boards and committees be received. West Nipissing Committee of Adjustment, March the 8th, 2021, and West Nipissing Public Library Board, March 11th, 2021.
Any questions or comments? Those in favor, en faveur? Carried, adopté. A mover and a seconder for the February disbursements. Show of hands, please. Conseiller Denis, Conseiller Chris.
It is moved by Councilor Denise Senecal and seconded by Councilor Fisher. Be it resolved that the accounts payable disbursement sheets for February 2021 be received.
Are there any questions? Conseiller Lease.
Two small things, just number 13, 12, the Royal Canadian Legion. What is it for? Like, I know that we do that. I don't recall what it is. So, Alicia, I think you'll be able to answer that very fast.
Yeah, we agreed that we were going to be covering the cost of their snow removal. So they have a contractor doing snow
Okay.
removal.
Okay. Thank you. And the second one is on page 8. Again, clarification, 400 AMCTO, that stands for what? And so that will tell me what is the advertising and promotion, but what does it stand for? AMCTO, Alicia?
Association of Municipal Clerks and Treasurers of Ontario.
Okay, okay, no, thank you.
Are there any other questions or comments? I do know that number 22, we have a disbursement under ECDEV to our local hospital for recruitment of health professionals for 20,000. Throughout our budget deliberation, I know that we were provided, there was a report that was provided by the CEO of the hospital identifying what they did with the 20,000. I just want to provide a reminder that that information needs to be shared to all members of council, so we're all on the same page of what was the added value for this expenditure, what was the outcome. So if that can be done. And I did have a question pertaining to number 50 regarding the IC cost. Was that in conjunction to the 2 reports that were released to our local media through the Municipal Freedom of Information?
I'd have to pull the invoice, certainly not an invoice like that as far as preparing the reports. No, I mean, we get invoices each month for a variety of things. I'm not even sure which month that would apply to.
Okay, and those were the questions that I had. Are there none? No more? Those in favor? En faveur? 1, 2, 3, 4. Je vais dire 5, carried. Okay, now we move on to the unfinished business of Fara Marche, and that had to do with the discussion pertaining to the tax levy contribution for the West Nipissing General Hospital for the operation of the CT scanner. And if there's no objection, I'll pass it on to our Director of Corporate Services, to Alyssa, just to provide us with an overview of the memo that was previously shared to Council.
Thank you. So we did touch on this at our last budget meeting, just sort of had a bit of a conversation towards what would be possible, and that the proposal of doing just a straight $750 per household doesn't comply with the municipal act, which is why it gives us some difficulty. If council still wishes to support the operating costs of the CT scanner, councils can entertain those type of things, and council can determine on what level of support it wishes to give and for how long it wishes to give. But it would become just a sort of like a line item on the budget. So you would debate your budget and come up with a levy increase, and then there would be, oh yeah, and there's 50,000 that's going to the hospital that would be then distributed amongst the tax base in the same way that the rest of the levy is distributed.
Okay, and very quickly, what was the actual annual contribution that the hospital was seeking? Were they basing it based on households, residential, and that would have represented approximately how much is the annual contribution?
So they asked for per household, and whether they meant residential or what they meant with it. Back in December, January, when we kind of sort of first looked at it there, if you did sort of the household count, it's about $56,000.
Okay, thank you. So I see there's a lot of hands. So Conseil Léo, Conseil Lise, Conseil Dan.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Yes, I say with the support the hospital, I see for this year in our budget to support at 50,000, and then come back again next year for another request, because I know we can't do it per household. So that's my view. But for 50,000 and for the 1 year, and then come back next year for again.
Conseil Lise.
Okay, so the 750 that was proposed by, that was given by Alicia, that's per year, per household, right, Alicia? Not every month.
Correct. That was what the hospital request was. Yeah, for a per year amount. Yes.
Okay, so I mean, okay, so I definitely support that, and I think we should make an engagement more than a year, because they need to operate. And I mean, so, and since that it's 750 like a year. So I agree the way, I understand the way that you want to put it on tax, part of the tax, but they want, it's part of the tax, not the tax budget, but it won't be as a tax levy. It's going to be as a levy one-shot deal, like divided by month, whatever what you're paying your tax, but that's the way it is, eh? Also per year.
No, because we can't do the 750 per household, but it will be an amount that gets applied across all the properties in West Nipissing, depending on how their assessment is. So we'll go with that, but it will just be a one shot per year as part of their tax billing. It'll just be part of the tax levy.
And okay, so you're saying that not everybody's gonna be paying the same?
That's correct. It'll depend on the assessment.
Okay, well then the 750 could be well, it doesn't know what it doesn't say what it's going to be an average of every resident. Can you answer that? Approximately what average for every resident? No, okay, I get it. Okay.
Conseil Dan.
Okay, thank you. Don't get me wrong, I'm not against the CT scanner. I think it's a good idea. It was a good initiative. They raised the money, they bought it. But I think this is a tax burden on our taxpayers. It's another form of downloading on the behalf of the province. We're picking up an operations that we're, something that we shouldn't be paying for because it's an operations amount. We'll have to look at investing a lot of money in the near future to the Chateau. If we get into a long-term agreement, it's $560,000. That's money that could go towards what we're going to be proposing for the Chateau, because the Chateau is ours, the hospital is not. I think that we have other options, and I find the other options could be like Councillor Leo says, give it to them for 1 year and see how it works, or write a letter to the Ministry of Health outlining the fact that we're appalled that they're downloading this cost, this operational cost on us, and that we're asking them to pay the difference. Or we could do this, another way we could do it, in the event they're in a deficit situation at the end of the year, we could take the money out of our reserve and to help them, not get into a deficit, or we can do nothing, as in Elliott Lake. Elliott Lake just got a new scanner in January. I had a good discussion with both the CAOs, and they said that initially Elliott Lake got involved, the municipality got involved in initiating the process of the funding, not the funding, but the initiative to get money towards it. But in no way will they pay for the operations of it, because they felt that it's going to cause a precedent. And that would mean that we would have any other organization in our municipality, whether it's Centre Communautaire de Santé, that could come to us and say, listen, we've got a very good program and we're missing $50,000. Can you help us with our operations on this? So I think this is an issue that it's more than just writing a check of $50,000. We've been very, very in the budget process. I know Councillor Yvon has been making statements that, we don't want to put no tax burden on people. And I think that there are some options other than writing a check and a commitment for 10 years.
Councillor Yvon? Councillor Chris, Councillor Rowley.
Thank you, Madam Edis. I want to agree with Leo, what he brought up with respect to this year, and look at another year, same as what Councillor Rivita mentioned. I do think that I don't like the fact that we are given that burden, and because of the situation, and we definitely need the hospital. I think it's a good initiative, but it's here we go again. Eh? So for the first part of the year, I don't want it to go see, as Alyssa mentioned, to every household, and depending on the evaluation of your business or your home. I don't agree with that. I think we should go with the route that Monsieur Mallet had mentioned, and then and look at it on an every year basis. Thank you.
Okay, Conseiller Chris, puis Conseiller Rowley.
So I feel much the same way Dan does. I think the half of the provincial budget goes to healthcare, and it's not really in the purview of healthcare. Shouldn't really be coming from your home tax. And once we put that on the tax bill, it's going to be hard to remove it. So even though I support the hospital, it's great that we've got a CT scanner. I think it needs to be funded differently, is my opinion. Thank you.
Conseiller Rowley, Conseiller Lease.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I totally agree with what Councillor Fisher just said. I don't think this should be on our residents' burden. This is like a private business that we'd be supporting. It should be the province that should be supporting this, and not through our tax. We agreed on 2% increase this year, and we've reached it, and now we're going over and above what we had agreed. So for those reasons, I do support the hospital, but I cannot support operating costs at our residents' expense. Thank you.
Okay. First thing first, though, we if council majority says that they'd like to make an annual contribution to the hospital, then we're going to have to discuss how that's going to be funded. Because you brought up a good point, Conseiller Rowley, we're firm with the 2%. But we also have a lot of money in surplus, which could be an option. Conseiller Lease, Conseiller Denis.
Well, the thing is that then I don't understand anymore, because I think you've said that there would be a one-shot deal on our tax, and I mean, it cannot be $200 for sure for one resident, depending the assessment, but his assessment would have to be very, very high. I don't agree also. I don't, we said 2%, but I understand that would be part of it, but that would be a one-shot deal. Like, I mean, and we can go year by year, and I don't dislike at all the idea that we go and write to the government and try to have that covered by the government in the meantime. But to start, I think we should agree for 1 year. I think it's Conseiller Leo that recommend that, and I think Conseiller Dan, you were on the same page, say, okay, 1 year, but we need to look at have it operate, not to be on a long-term things. I think that's what you said. I don't want to put words in your mouth, but this is what I understand you said. So this year, I think tonight we could, if there's a vote or a recommendation direction to staff is, yes, we agree for 1 year. And after that, in the meantime, I don't know, Conseiller Dan, or the letter should be right by the municipality itself to send to the Ministry of Health to say, come on. Like, I mean, it's your responsibility, whatever.
Okay.
So we need to do something this year, and
yeah. Okay, Conseiller Lees, you've identified your position. Conseiller Denis hasn't spoken yet.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I feel that 1 year is short for them. They need to plan their operations also. I think we should support them, but because if we look around, and it's not abnormal to see municipalities helping out the hospitals and arenas and all that stuff. So it's not something that's new. It's always been. And if we look around, we can look at North Bay, Sudbury, maybe Elliott Lake is not the same, but I'm sure there's a lot that support their individual, like the hospital. The municipality did support that. There's a lot of because of the funding issue. They need a lot of help, and the hospital is underfunded. And I think we should do whatever we can to protect the future of our hospital. It's unfortunate we can't put it down as 746 or whatever. That would have been good. But at the least, I agreed to 1 year, but I think that's short-sighted and whatever.
Okay. Okay. So, Conseiller Dan?
I just want to clarify a statement, Denis, Councillor Denis. There are no other municipalities that pay towards operations. That's the clarification. Other municipalities have taxed on a levy to help with the hospitals, but I don't think you can find a municipality in Ontario that pays for the operations of a hospital. Conseiller
Denis?
I'll take that challenge, and I'll find somebody in Ontario that supports the operation.
Okay.
Maybe
so,
okay.
Yeah. So I think, in summary, in a nutshell, when West Nipissing was provided contribution financial support to the North Bay Regional Health Centre, the levy was applied towards capital. Now, the fact that the capital has been done in the operation, but we were told throughout the presentation from the CEO of the hospital that the ministry does not subsidize the operation of a CT scanner, and that all hospitals that do have a CT scanner, they have to look at the mechanism to generate the funds that they need for the operation of the CT scanner. So on that note, we are provided the information of our Director of Corporate Services. That's the challenging part. And whatever contribution that we want to provide towards the CT scanner, since it's already been acquired, would have to be through an annual contribution. So I've heard some people identify let's at least provide 1 year contribution. And I heard the amount of 50,000. And I heard at least 4 members that would agree to it. And in the interim, have some discussion, look at opportunities that we can assist the hospital to see if the province would intervene in providing them with additional operating funds. So I'm going to see who is in favor of providing an annual contribution in the sum of $50,000 for 1 year through the auspices of our municipal tax, and then twofold. We also need to find out from staff what they recommend on how we can provide that annual contribution without affecting our 2% increase, which Conseil Rowley identified. So who's in favor of providing an annual contribution of 50,000 towards the operation of the CT scan? If I can see a show of hands, please.
For 1 year.
For
Point
1
of clarif-
year.
For 1 year, okay. For
Yeah,
1 year?
that's what I said, for 1 year. So I see
No.
1, 2.
For what?
So a contribution of $50,000 for the operation of the CT scan, and that would be an annual contribution for 2021 to the hospital.
Mayor, if I may,
Yes, Madam Chair.
I'm trying to understand something. So what you're saying is, the $50,000 will be, we will find it what we already discussed and approve at budget.
No.
Because no more than 2%.
The first thing is to find out, is there an appetite to provide a 1 year annual contribution of $50,000? And I see that Conseil Yvon, Conseil Denis, Conseil Lease, Conseil Leo. I'm not too sure about Conseil Dan. Conseil
Just for
Dan,
one- just for
yes,
1 year, Madam Mayor? Yes.
that's right. That's right. That's the question.
Exactly.
Perhaps to
Okay,
clarify it, Madam Mayor, what we should be saying is a contribution of 50,000 for this fiscal year, period.
that's what I said, 2021.
No, but you
Budget.
said annual. Annual sounds
Okay.
like whatever year.
Well, 1 annual contribution. So I saw majority carries. Now, the second issue is that I heard one councillor say, we were adamant, we're not going more than 2%, and that's what we achieved, right? So is it fair that we can return it to our Director of Corporate Services to come back with that to us with a recommendation of where that $50,000 can be grabbed from municipal tax dollars without affecting the 2%? And we know that we have money in surplus. Or, you know what, the recommendation can be, can this contribution be taken from surplus? This way it doesn't affect the final numbers. Conseil Yvon.
I'm agreeing because that's what Councilor Leo said, and I agreed with Councilor Leo, and we take it out of surplus for this year.
Okay. So I'll ask for a show of hands of who is in agreement that the 50,000 for this 1 year contribution be taken from surplus. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, majority. There. Does that?
Can I ask a point of
Yes.
clarification? And that in the motion, we should also say, and that the municipality will write to the Minister of Health requesting that there be extra funds or whatever.
We're going to get a resolution that will come forward, I imagine, at our next meeting.
Yes.
Okay. Yeah. And then I was asking the question to our CEO, but everyone said yes. So is it fair to say that we'll have a resolution that comes forward to our next meeting, or is it reflected in the minutes? Does the minutes suffice with this information?
Through you, Madam Chair, not something as specific as there still have to be a resolution.
Perfect. Okay. Thank you. Okay, we move on to new business. A mover and a seconder for G1. Conseil Yvon, Conseil Denis.
It is moved by Councillor Duham and seconded by Councillor Denise Anacow. Whereas budget meetings were held on March the 1st and March the 3rd, 2021, at which time council recommended that certain 2020 surplus be transferred to reserves. And whereas council agreed that $3,075 of the surplus funds be transferred to bylaw fleet and that $3,500 of the surplus funds be transferred to emergency measures. Yet therefore resolved that the transfer of the municipality of West Nipissing 2020 surplus is authorized to be transferred as follows: $3,075 to be transferred to bylaw fleet and $3,500 transferred to emergency measures.
Those in favor, en faveur? Adopted, carried. We proceed to J2. And I want to thank our Director of Corporate Services because we have all the information regarding the proposal for the operation of the Cache Bay Park. But I'm just going to ask our Director of Corporate Services, Stéphane, in the event that there's any questions, because we got all the information regarding the RFP, and we also got a draft of the proposed lease agreement. And I'll just pass it on to Stéphane just for a summary, and if there's any questions, so then afterwards we can proceed in adopting the resolution. Should we be adopting the resolution right away, Mélanie, before we start the discussion with all of this?
No, we would discuss
Okay.
before you adopt the resolution.
Okay, so Stéphane?
As explained at the last meeting, Madam Mayor, we went through an RFP process, three proposals.
You're not adopting the resolution, but you need to read the resolution, table it, then discuss it.
Well, that's what I was asking.
Yeah, but you said adopt is, I think that's what confused me.
Okay.
So don't adopt the resolution, but table the resolution, Melanie. Thank you.
My apologies.
No, it's not your issue. It's just a communication. Thanks.
I need a movement. Second, Madam Mayor.
Conseiller Dan, puis Conseiller Yvon.
It is moved by Councillor Rivera and seconded by Councillor Duhane. Be it resolved that the mayor and the chief administrative officer be authorized to execute a lease agreement with Antoine Gannett for the operation of the Cache Bay Trailer Park.
So I'm going to pass it back to Stéphane.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. As I was mentioning, there was three proposals received. The proposals were evaluated based on the criteria provided in the RFP, which we have a copy of, and a lease agreement in principle has been agreed to by Mr. Gannett. And you have the lease agreement in front of you. It's for a duration of 3 years. And it's very similar to the agreement that we had with Mr. Gannett over the course of the last 5 years.
Okay. Are there any questions pertaining to the draft lease agreement? Aucune question? Conseiller Lease?
Okay, I want to say thank you very much, Stéphane, for all the information that you promised to give us. We had it. I do have a question on page 5, guideline and requirement, and I think it's, I don't know if it's part of the, yeah, it's part of the, it's under guideline. I don't know if it was part of your RFP or something like that. I cannot find the title. So, and it's regarding provide all materials, supply, maintenance, equipment, and resource necessary for the operation, management, and maintenance of the campground. So what does it mean, like in big? So, because I know that obviously they are in charge of making sure like gravel and all that to make sure to maintain the facility that's in place and blah, blah, blah. But provide all materials, supply, maintenance, equipment. Is that what you're talking? And I think somebody, and maybe that's the answer, somebody told me that they had lawnmower, for example, that they were lending to the tenant, not the tenant, but the one that's paying for the trailer. Is that what you think it means that?
Yeah, essentially, we basically sign over the operations and care and maintenance of that facility. What we still own is the key infrastructure. So the buildings are still ours. We still insure those, but the proponent is responsible to cut the grass. If they need topsoil, if they want to do, if they want to add gravel, it is the operator's responsibility to incur those costs and get that material.
Okay, so that's what I thought. I just wanted to make sure. And the opening, the mentioning, because I don't, I think, do they operate the same time, not time, but let's say, for example, I know one camp, well, there's not a lot, like Glenwork, for example, it goes to the first, it would have opened the first weekend in May, I think May the 15th, something like that, and it goes till Thanksgiving, not Thanksgiving, October, the last long weekend in October.
Thanksgiving.
That Thanksgiving. So usually it's around the 15th. So will they operate the same?
I'm not 100% sure, but once before the people leasing the sites, they get all they get an oversight of opening, closing dates, all the rules, regulations. So the operator will certainly share that with them. I'm going by memory, but I don't have the agreement here in front of me, but it's either end of September, I believe September 30th is the latest they can go.
Okay, so that would be different. Okay, you answered my question. Thank you.
Are there any other questions, Councillor Yvon?
Question to staff. Is there I understand that, you have to make a profit when you're operating a bit such, but is there a step where we can't rent the area of parking to the tenants? Like, I mean, is there a amount of money that they can raise it per year, or are they flexible to do whatever they want when it comes to raising?
Yeah, we leave that to them. It's their business model, and I mean, if they would, I think he's been very reasonable over the last 5 years. I don't think he intends to hurt his business by increasing, but he does see increase in hydro costs and whatnot. And when we raise our municipal taxes and our water and sanitary rates, his fees go up as well because he's responsible to pay all that. Same with garbage and whatnot. So we have left the ability for the operator to raise the fees according to his needs, and we haven't run into issues with that. We haven't really set the guidelines for him to remain, and it's worked well so far. And he also advises me that he looks at other campgrounds and he tries to price himself according to the services provided as well.
Okay, it's just I'd received complaints.
Councillor Lease, Councillor Leo.
And thank you, Councillor Yvon, because I did have people talking to me about that, about the big increase a few years ago in every year, which I do understand, but I sure hope that it's compatible, and it's a beautiful place. It's a beautiful place. Mm-hmm. So, but I mean, it need to be because there's a reality here. We have to look at it too, because I mean, there's no space like close to town or something like that. So, I mean, they do have the choice. Somebody wants to move tonight, well, in 2 days, or put their trailer for sale, the next 24 hours, it would be sold because there's no place available. So I would like to see kind of, okay, increase, go by whatever, but increase should not be 10, 15, 20% in a year. Mm-hmm. Because I don't think they have a choice. Yeah, they can leave, but I don't think it's right because they don't have a place to put their trailer. So they really don't have a choice. So just
we can talk about that, but right now that's not how it's outlined in the contract. So there would have to be majority. Like, I mean, this is what is being proposed to us for the next 3 years, unless someone is proposing an amendment, but if there's no amendment proposed, it stays as is.
Madam Mayor, yes, thank you. Yeah, just further to that conversation, I know I was approached Paul when said he was leaving in winter, and people were upset he was going to take care of the park and all that stuff. Are they going to close the park? So now they're relieved, at least the park will be open for the next 4 or 5, I don't know how many years. But I think it's a relief for them because, I mean, they wanted to stay in that park. Just a comment.
Yeah, and I agree with that.
Are there any other questions? No? So we have the resolution to entertain, to approve the lease as the draft that was given to us. So we can proceed in signing the agreement with Monsieur Antoine Gannett for the operation of the Cache Bay Park. All in favor? En faveur? Carried. Adopté. Okay, the next item, J3, mover and a seconder for the resolution. Okay, Conseiller Yvon, Conseiller Denis.
It is moved by Councillor Duhaime and seconded by Councillor Denise Senecal. Whereas at the budget meeting held on April the 14th, 2021, staff was directed to investigate and apply for funding opportunities for the field outdoor rink project. Be it therefore resolved that Council for the West Nipissing Municipality authorizes the Director of Economic Development and Community Services to submit funding applications for the field outdoor rink project.
Conseiller Lease.
Well, I do have a question because I definitely do support that they look for it, but I don't think the resolution, it's in advance. I think we should have, when they found the place, the funding source, I think that's when they should come back to us and say, I don't know, Northern Development in Mines gave us $500,000 and we're applying for it. Yes, we support the resolution that goes. I think we're going, I cannot support a resolution tonight. I support that they look for it. And I think that was the directive that was giving, is the same thing that we gave directive to staff a little bit early to go and look at potential place for people to put their fruit stand if they cannot find a place. That's and if they come back with the finding, but I don't think the resolution, I will not support the resolution tonight. I support the directive that was given to them. And I don't think it should be in the form of resolution, because we need to know where and how much money, because we need to know what that project is going to be costing.
Okay, so I see that our Director of Community Services hand was up. I think this came forward because of lots of discussion pertaining to the field rink, which the budget for capital was approved for the field rink. But I believe there was an appetite to find out a little bit more detail of what the project was all about. And if we're going to be pursuing funding from experience, customarily, we provide authorization to proceed for application for a specific grant, for a specific project, and we have an idea of exactly what we're applying for. Would that be doable, Stéphane?
It would, if you wish
Okay.
to have all the particulars. However, I have reached out to former colleagues, and there are granting programs that do support recreational infrastructure, which is not always the case. So I think the timing is right for this type of project. I think that it's best to submit our application sooner than later. We do know what the municipality's contribution will be. We also know what the committee has been able to fundraise locally, and we also know the contribution amount from the Caisse Populaire. So similar to the project in Cache Bay for the splash park and the playground, we have all the community partners in place, and we know potentially the scope of the project. So I would recommend that we start working on an application and apply for funding, knowing that unless they come back and ask for a greater portion of the project to be paid for by the municipality, that we can move forward with the money being allocated to this project.
Okay, but if we already know all these details, why are we not provided these details on the resolution? Because I endorse what Conseiller Lease is saying. I endorse the project. We've had that discussion. We've awarded 105,000. We're now providing a contribution of 150, the municipality. It was not clear on exactly the total amount for this project and exactly the scope of the project. And I do know myself, I have this agreement with our MP and MPP that when we submit an application for a grant, I also notify them and share the supporting documentation so they can lobby on behalf of the municipality and assist us in awarding the funding. It's pretty hard to be able to do that lobby if I don't have all those details. Conseiller Leo?
Yeah, thank you, Mayor. I think we should proceed with the applications. I mean, the longer we wait, we can lose the funding. And Steph, well aware, he's done this before for Cash Bay or somebody else. And no, we have to help these people. And I say, let's go try to get the funding. We can't lose it. I mean, if we lose it,
Conseiller Leo, I will ask you, Conseiller Leo, which funding are we applying for if you're implying that we're going to be losing the funding?
Well, if we don't apply, we don't know.
I know, that is not the question. That is not the question. What is the funding program that we are approving right now to move forward with?
Well, what Steph has been recommending.
Well, look at the resolution.
So Madam Mayor, if you wish, I can put together all the criteria and the program information, and I can have that for council in 2 weeks. And then if council wants, I'll give you the scope of work as well of what's being planned for that project. And if that's what council's wish is, we can have that ready for you in May. I'll provide a complete information package on the funding programs, the criteria, the application process, and then council can give us the authority to apply on your behalf.
Yeah,
And you will have,
and I don't hear that no one will not support it. I think we want to know what we're applying for and details pertaining to the project and having an idea of the scope of the funding that we're applying for. We're looking at synopsis, right? So Conseiller Elise, Conseiller Chris.
well, like I said, this is exactly what I would like to see, and I can guarantee you that I will support it because we directed that to do that. So it's just that now approving something that we don't know for sure, and maybe and I know you will apply for it, Stefan. So you have to do the work anyway. So it will be approved. We're not discussing or debating that if we don't approve or approve, we approve the project already. So it's a done deal. We just need to know that it's clear what we are. And you said you have all the information right now as far as what the municipality, what La Caisse gave, what the people are giving. So,
Okay.
I mean, we're not asking an extra help. And by the way, it's 9:34. And I think you need a resolution.
I've seen the time. I was just trying to finish this one. One item right now. Conseiller Chris had his hand up for quite a while.
So I don't understand.
Sorry,
can you hear me?
Yes, now we can.
Okay, I'm having internet problems. So I don't understand why we wouldn't just go ahead and give staff permission to apply for various things. So, some of these do have windows to apply, like NOHFC. I'm not sure when it closes, but it's not open forever. It's sort of a short-term thing. And I just don't see why we wouldn't just say, yeah, go ahead and apply for funding. The arguments here make no sense to me. Thank you.
Well, maybe they don't, and I have to support your opinion, but I also have an opinion that I'd like to know which program we're applying for and how much we're applying, and having a little bit of more information pertaining to the specifics of the project. So I'm just going to call it to a vote with the resolution as is right now, because that's what's being tabled. I know that our director said he could bring it back in 2 weeks. But if you look at the resolution as worded, who would support the recommendation or wait for further information in 2 weeks from now? So who supports the resolution as presented now? 1, 2, 3, 4 defeated. So we'll wait for further information to come back at our next meeting. Now we are beyond our curfew, beyond 9:30.
Can I just ask a question, maybe directed to our CAO, Jay? If this resolution has now been defeated, does that mean we can't bring this subject back for a year?
No, because we've asked for additional information. And if that additional information comes, then it's been stated that they would support it.
Because should we have not deferred the resolution and come back with more information, or are we backing ourselves into a corner here?
No, technically, if one of the prevailing members want to bring it back, it's kind of a weird way that it was done, but I think that you're allowed to bring it back because a prevailing member wants additional information to bring it back.
Yeah.
That's correct. Okay, thank you.
Thanks.
Okay, so now I need a mover and a seconder to be able to go beyond our curfew. Conseiller Yvon, I need a second hand for a resolution. Conseiller Denis,
It is moved. It is moved by Councillor Duham and seconded by Councillor Denise Senecal. Approximately 9:35 p.m. A motion was tabled to extend the meeting beyond the regular curfew in order to proceed with the agenda.
okay, I'm gonna have to find out who's in favor.
Who's in favor of what, or continuing?
Yes. Okay, so I see two hands. So we don't even have majority to proceed beyond curfew.
And I would ask that,
Please, just a second here. So this means that there's two issues pertaining to contracts that cannot be awarded this evening. And there was also a portion in closed session. I'm just going to ask our CEO, the issue of the contracts for calcium and granular resurfacing, will that impact the projects if it's delayed by 2 weeks? No? Okay. So then I need a resolution for a mover and a seconder to adjourn the meeting.
before that, I have a question to ask, a comment to make on that. I think we got to make sure that the rest is on top of the agenda to be dealt at next agenda. We cannot forget that and delete that.
Okay, well, I'll work it out with our CEO pertaining to the
Okay.
agenda for the next meeting. So I don't think right now that's the forum to discuss that.
No, I'm just saying.
Okay, so I need a mover and a seconder to be able to adjourn the meeting. Conseiller Denis, Conseiller Léo.
It is moved by Councillor Denise Senecal and seconded by Councillor Vermeulet. Be it resolved that bylaw number 2021-35, being a bylaw of the Western Pacific Municipality to confirm the proceedings of council at its meeting held on the 20th of April, 2021, shall come into force and take effect on the day it is passed.
Okay, and just before proceeding, I wanted to share good news, and I'm sure that Conseiller Rowley is aware, because in River Valley, the post office was not in operation right now. However, I do know that they are negotiating and that they are looking at a facility which is going to be it's going to be through a not-for-profit organization, but stay tuned. We'll find out by May 1st when the post office is going to reopen in River Valley and which location. And that's good news. So coming back to the resolution, those in favor, en faveur, adopté, carried. We have one more.
It is moved by Councillor Denise Senecal and seconded by Councillor Millet. Be it resolved that the meeting of council held on April the 20th, 2021 be adjourned.
Is G still there?
All in favor? En faveur? Okay, I saw 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay, carried, adopté. So this does conclude our meeting for this evening. Ceci conclut notre réunion ce soir.
I have a question for G. I don't know if it's gone or. Yeah.
We're still live.
Okay, but I do